It is funny how the sound of wedding bells can turn into the sound of chains breaking. On the day I should have walked into my forever, I walked into an ending. I was left at the altar. Yes, abandoned like a forgotten detail in someone else's story. The guests whispered, my father's face hardened, and the flowers seemed to wilt in my hands. My fiancé, the man I thought I knew, simply didn't show. His last message was an apology text, cold and clipped, sent 20 minutes before the ceremony. In America, we worship happy endings. But in that moment, mine died before it even began. The weeks that followed were a haze of pitying looks, hushed conversations, and endless nights staring at my ceiling in Brooklyn, wondering how love could rot so suddenly. I wanted to disappear, but life is cruelly efficient. It forces you to keep moving even when your heart refuses. And life's next move for me was brutal. A mandatory business merger with none other than Victoria Hayes. Victoria Hayes, the woman who had been my competitor since the day I first pitched my startup. She was ruthless, brilliant, and devastatingly beautiful. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and make it feel like a stage built just for her. Where I was soft edges and unsteady hope, she was sharp lines and steel confidence. And now, thanks to a strategic partnership our boards had agreed upon, she was also my new business partner. The first time we sat across from each other after the wedding disaster, I could barely breathe. You look, she started, then paused, her gaze lingering on my tired eyes. Different. Like someone who got humiliated in front of 100 people? I snapped, regretting the bitterness the moment it left my mouth. Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Like someone who's still standing. That was Victoria. Always precise, always finding the one thing that could cut through my defenses. We worked late nights in her Manhattan office, surrounded by glass walls and the hum of the city below. She was demanding, relentless, but there was something in the way she stayed until midnight too, making sure I wasn't drowning under the pressure. Somewhere between financial reports and product launches, I began to notice her differently. The way her laughter slipped out unexpectedly, how she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was nervous, how her eyes softened when she thought I wasn't watching, terrified me. I had been betrayed once already. Love had left me bleeding on a marble floor, and now here I was, feeling my pulse quicken every time Victoria leaned too close, every time her hand brushed mine while we passed papers. One night, after a grueling 12-hour meeting, she poured 2 glasses of whiskey and slid one across the desk toward me. To survival, she said, clinking her glass against mine. I laughed, the sound foreign but welcome. Barely. Her eyes lingered on me longer than necessary. You're stronger than you think, Emily. Something shifted then. The distance between us was no longer professional. It was charged, alive. I told myself it was exhaustion, loneliness, the echo of heartbreak making me crave anything warm. But when she reached out and touched my hand, I didn't pull away. Instead, I felt something I hadn't in months, maybe years. Safe. The tabloids called her the Ice Queen of Wall Street. They had no idea that behind the sharp suits and empire she built, there was a woman who stayed late just to make sure her team got home safe. A woman who carried her scars as carefully as I carried mine. Our rivalry blurred into something softer. We argued fiercely during the day, our voices echoing through the office halls, only to find ourselves laughing over takeout an hour later. She challenged me, infuriated me, but also reminded me that broken things could still shine. And then came the night everything cracked open. We were on the balcony of her penthouse, the city lights sprawling endlessly below us. The air was heavy with the promise of rain. I turned to thank her for something trivial, a ride home, a signed contract I can't even remember. What I do remember is the way her eyes searched mine, as if she was asking a question she was too afraid to voice. Emily, she whispered, my name trembling on her lips. And before I could stop myself, before fear could strangle me again, I leaned in. The kiss was not gentle. It was desperate, angry at the world, but underneath it all was the kind of tenderness that undid me completely. For the first time since my failed wedding, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt chosen. The kiss left us both breathless, as if the city itself had paused to watch. Victoria pulled back first, her forehead still pressed to mine, her hands trembling against my cheeks. This is dangerous, she murmured, her voice low, almost pleading. Then why does it feel like the only thing that makes sense? I whispered back. We didn't speak much after that. Words would have ruined it. Instead, we stood there, letting the rain finally fall, cool drops soaking into my hair, my dress, her suit jacket. She laughed, sharp and unrestrained, as if years of walls had finally cracked open. And for once, I didn't feel ashamed of wanting something that the world might call reckless. But the world did not stay quiet for long. The press sniffed out rumors almost immediately. Someone had seen us together too many nights. Someone had whispered about the Ice Queen and the bride who never married. Headlines exploded across every business column, every glossy magazine. My father called in a rage, demanding to know if it was true, if I was really throwing away everything for a woman who once tried to crush my company. And for a moment I faltered. Old shame crept back in, the kind that says love between women should be hidden, a whispered secret in the dark. But when I looked at Victoria calm, unshaken, her hand steady in mine, I realized I had spent too much of my life living for other people's expectations. One evening, in the quiet of her apartment, I asked the question that had been gnawing at me. Are we just filling the void? Am I just a distraction for you? She put her glass down and looked at me with eyes that saw right through every shield I tried to raise. Emily, if you were a distraction, I wouldn't be terrified of losing you. It was then I understood. She wasn't untouchable, not really. She was human, breakable, and she was offering me her vulnerability. It scared her as much as it scared me, but it was real. The months that followed weren't easy. Board members whispered, investors questioned my judgment, and some employees tiptoed around the tension. But slowly, through late nights and relentless determination, Victoria and I turned the merger into something unstoppable. Our combined strengths rebuilt not only the business but also the broken pieces of ourselves. And somewhere in the middle of contracts and conferences, I found joy again. I found it in the way she always ordered my favorite coffee before I even walked into the room. In the way she held my hand under the table when meetings got brutal. In the quiet nights where we did nothing but sit on her couch, legs tangled, laughing at terrible movies. The woman who once terrified me became the woman who steadied me. The turning point came one spring afternoon, nearly a year after the wedding that never was. We were at a shareholder event, a ballroom filled with glass chandeliers and calculating eyes. A man made a snide remark about my runaway groom loud enough for half the table to hear. My throat tightened, the old humiliation threatening to resurface. But before I could speak, Victoria's voice cut through the room. She's the strongest partner I've ever had in business and in life. Anyone who can't see that has no business sitting at this table. It was the first time she had claimed me publicly. Not just as a colleague, not just as a partner in the company, as hers. The room went silent. Some faces were shocked, some disapproving. But I didn't care. Because in that moment, the chains of shame, of fear, of the life I thought I had to live, they all fell away. Later that night, when the city lights glowed against her window, I kissed her again. This time without fear. This time without hesitation. Do you ever regret it? I asked softly. Regret choosing you? She smiled, brushing her thumb along my jaw. Never. The truth is, heartbreak had brought me to her. Pain had cracked me open, and through those cracks, something unexpected and luminous grew. I had lost the man I thought was my future, but I found the woman who actually was. Now, when I look back at that wedding day, I don't see just abandonment. I see the beginning of something braver, something that dared to rewrite what love could look like. Because sometimes, being left behind is the only way to find where you truly belong. And I belong here with her. Victoria Hayes, the rival who became my partner. The woman who turned my brokenness into strength. The one I never saw coming, but now can't imagine living without. So yes, I was left at the altar. But I walked away not empty-handed. I walked away into the arms of the only person who ever truly chose me. And this time I'm not letting go. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.